The day I bought 40 acres of land just to spite my HOA president, I never imagined she'd unravel so badly that she'd end up in handcuffs on my security cameras. Picture this. I'm stretched out in my wildflower meadow, the sweet smell of honeysuckle mixing with freshly cut grass, birds chirping peacefully in the distance. And then suddenly, a white BMW tears down the road toward my property like a missile. Before she even reaches the driveway, my steel security gate slams shut with thunder's metallic clang that echoes across the valley. The electronic lock seals instantly. She starts laying on the horn, her face turning the color of a bruised plum as she screams, "You can't do this to me." But here's the twist that absolutely shattered her brain. This land, it sits completely outside her HOA territory. Zero jurisdiction. For a control freak like Dolly, that fact was pure kryptonite. 6 months later, I'm sipping my morning coffee while replaying the most satisfying footage imaginable. County deputies escorted her off my property in handcuffs for trespassing. But before we get there, let me ask you something. Have you ever dealt with one of those power-hungry HOA dictators who act like they own not just your house, but your entire existence? Drop your city in the comments and tell me your worst neighbor war story. Trust me, after what happened here, I'm collecting them. But before I get ahead of myself, you need to understand how this whole disaster began. My name is Marcus Remy. I'm 45 years old, and 6 months ago, I was just another divorced guy trying to rebuild his life from the ground up. My marriage had detonated spectacularly when my ex-wife decided our financial advisor made better husband material. After that kind of betrayal, I needed quiet, space, somewhere peaceful where I could reset. The good news was that I work remotely as a software engineer, which means I can live pretty much anywhere with decent internet. So I chose what looked like suburban paradise, Willowbrook Estates. Looking back, the name alone should have been a warning. Any neighborhood that calls itself an estate, while consisting entirely of cookie-cutter houses, is probably run by people with delusions of grandeur. Still, the 3-bedroom ranch house I bought had solid bones. It sat on a corner lot, which meant fewer nosy neighbors, and the listing promised a vibrant community. The smell of fresh paint still lingered when I moved in. It mixed with that hopeful scent of new beginnings, and maybe, someday, a backyard full of tomato plants. Then I met the queen bee herself, Dolores Dolly Peton. Picture a 52-year-old woman who drives a pristine white BMW with a vanity license plate HOA 1. Yes, she actually paid extra for that. And she carries her iPad around like it's some kind of royal scepter. Dolly had been the HOA president for 8 straight years, which honestly should have made me sprint in the opposite direction. Her husband, Roger, followed her everywhere like a scolded puppy, constantly apologizing to neighbors for her behavior. The harassment started during week 3. I was still unpacking boxes, enjoying my first quiet morning coffee, when someone began pounding on my door like they were serving a warrant. There stood Dolly, iPad glowing in the morning sun, ready to welcome me to the neighborhood with all the warmth of a tax audit. "Your mailbox is non-compliant," she announced without even saying hello. Her stylus tapped rapidly against the screen. Click, click, click. The sound reminded me of a tiny machine gun. "Black is not approved. Forest green only." That a $150 fine plus mandatory correction. Here's the beautiful irony. That mailbox came with the house. The previous owner confirmed it had been approved by the HOA in 2019. But facts don't matter much to someone intoxicated with petty power. Quick side note. Most HOA violations legally require a formal hearing before fines can be imposed. Check your local laws. A lot of HOAs skip that step, hoping homeowners won't push back. In my case, the violations multiplied like rabbits. My work van parked in my own driveway, commercial vehicle violation, $300 fine. The garden gnome my daughter gave me, aesthetic disturbance, $500 fine. Security cameras after a neighbor's house got robbed creates an atmosphere of suspicion, another $500. But the breaking point came during my housewarming barbecue. 15 neighbors, Saturday afternoon, completely normal gathering. The grill was smoking beautifully, burgers sizzling, kids laughing in the backyard. For the first time since my divorce, I actually felt human again. Then Dolly arrived. She marched onto my patio, uninvited, like a plague of locusts. In one hand, she held a measuring tape. In the other, a professional noise meter. Her stilettos clicked against the concrete, like a death march. Her overpowering lavender perfume clashed horribly with the smell of grilled burgers. "This exceeds maximum assembly parameters," she announced loudly. "Noise levels approaching violation threshold. 30 minutes to disperse, or I contact authorities." It was 3 p.m. on a Saturday. The music was barely louder than normal conversation, but Dolly stood there timing everything with a stopwatch. My guests suddenly remembered urgent appointments. Watching them leave, people who had brought potato salad and friendly smiles, felt worse than burnt meat. The humiliation stuck in my throat. That night, listening to crickets instead of laughter and staring at uneaten burgers stacked on the counter, something hardened inside me. I made a decision that would change everything. Time to show Miss HOA President what happens when you push the wrong software engineer too far. 2 weeks after that barbecue disaster, Dolly escalated things. A certified letter arrived in my mailbox. The envelope was thick, heavy, intimidating. The green certified mail sticker practically screamed, "Your life is about to get complicated." I signed for it while wearing Batman pajamas and holding my morning coffee. Inside was the legal equivalent of a punch to the face. Notice of intent to file property lien. Dolly claimed I owed $2,400 in fines plus another $800 in administrative fees. Creative accounting that would impress a cartel money launderer. I had 30 days to pay or face a lien that could block me from selling my house. The letter was pure intimidation. Threats of foreclosure proceedings. Attorney fees. Legal consequences. Everything designed to scare normal homeowners into paying quietly. But software engineers aren't exactly normal. We spend our careers debugging broken systems. And this HOA system? It was full of corrupt code. 3 sleepless nights. Fueled by caffeine and pure spite, I dissected every line of HOA bylaws and state property law. My dining room table looked like a legal war room. Highlighted documents. Sticky notes. Flowcharts mapping Dolly's violations. Turns out she had skipped mandatory hearings, exceeded legal fine limits, and invented fees that didn't exist in the bylaws. And then I discovered something interesting. Agricultural zoning laws. Agricultural land often overrides residential restrictions. That little legal detail will become extremely important later. Even better, I found 3 other victims. Mrs. Patterson had been fined $900 for excessive bird feeding. The Johnson family faced $1,200 in penalties because their kids' playground equipment supposedly damaged neighborhood aesthetics. Same pattern, same harassment, same HOA playbook. While building my legal defense, I also started browsing property maps online. Part research, part therapy for my analytical brain. And that's when I saw something beautiful. 40 acres of agricultural land directly bordering our subdivision, completely outside the HOA's jurisdiction. The land belonged to Ezra Whitfield. His family had farmed it since the Eisenhower administration. I'd seen him before at Murphy's Diner, always sitting in the same booth eating apple pie while reading the obituaries. So one Thursday morning, I slid into booth across from him. The diner smelled like bacon grease and burnt coffee. Opportunity was definitely in the air. "Mr. Whitfield, I'm Marcus Remy, your neighbor from Willowbrook. Mind if I sit?" Turns out Ezra was ready to sell. Developers had been circling his property like vultures, offering insultingly low prices. He wanted to move to Florida to be closer to his daughter and grandkids, but he refused to let his family land become another strip mall. "Those subdivision folks," he said while stirring sugar into his coffee, "they see my land like it's empty space waiting for more McMansions." Then he looked at me and smiled slightly. "You seem different, son." I offered $180,000. Fair market value. Enough to respect his legacy and still fit my budget. We shook hands over coffee and pie. No corporate lawyers. No developer tricks. Just old-fashioned trust. The closing moved fast. Cash deal. Simple paperwork. Within a week, I owned 40 acres of freedom. 40 acres that would make Dolly's head explode. And somehow, through her neighborhood gossip network. She found out almost immediately. That Thursday evening, she appeared at my door like an angry ghost, face bright red. "You can't just buy land to spite the HOA," she screamed. "There are community standards, procedures, property value protections." Her expensive perfume smelled sharp in the evening air. But underneath it, I could smell something else. Desperation. That's when I dropped the bomb. "Actually, Dolly," I said calmly, pulling the deed from my pocket like a magician revealing the final card, "I can buy whatever I want. And this land," I added, holding up the document so the official seal caught the sunlight, "it's completely outside your jurisdiction. Agricultural zoning beats HOA rules." Her face cycled through emotions faster than a slot machine. Confusion, rage, panic. For 8 years, she had never encountered anything she couldn't control. Her mouth opened and closed without sound. For the first time in her adult life, Dolly Peton was completely speechless. Then she spun around and stormed off. Her BMW roared down the street like a wounded animal. And that's when I knew. The game had officially begun.